Maureen Galindo is a Democrat who ran for the House in Texas this year. But she's also said during the campaign she wants to turn the ICE detention center in her district into a prison for Zionists and ICE officers. I guess she thinks she's progressive? Because hating ICE, okay, check, and hating Jews, sure, that's progressive now. Crazy. It's just not a deal breaker anymore for running. Politics has always been a crazy game, but the people running weren't this crazy.
Bill Maher is sounding the alarm again, and this time Graham Plattner's double standards are the perfect example. As the midterms race closer, Maher argues Democrats are repeating the same mistakes that helped sink them in 2024. His verdict is sharp, relentless, and impossible to ignore. So, if you enjoy hard-hitting political commentary, smash that subscribe button, and let's jump right in.
And finally, new rule, let's get real about Graham Plattner. If you've been sleeping on politics lately, well, who can blame you? But the big story is the Democrats can likely take back the Senate in November if they win Maine. But their local candidate official now up there is, after the primary this week, let's just say a guy who has a backstory that screams, don't ask. Now, I don't judge Graham Plattner because I'm just learning who he is. Problem is, so is he. What I do know is he served his country in the Marines in war, and you can never discount how big that is. But then there's the sexting while married, scary behavior, so say some of his exes, old posts about how he's a communist and all cops are bastards and black people don't tip.
Maher brings all of this up because it reflects exactly what the Democratic Party has become. Just a few years ago, Democrat leaders openly backed the defund the police movement while dismissing concerns about public safety. More recently, figures like Zohran Mamdani and AOC have promoted ideas critics view as far-left and deeply socialist. Then there's Bernie Sanders, who spent years campaigning on taxing the rich into oblivion. I won't spoil Maher's next point, but trust me, it's a big one. If Graham Plattner truly embraces this same agenda, Democrats aren't just risking a few seats. They could lose Maine altogether, a state many assume should be safely blue. Stick around, because Maher's explanation of why this matters is absolutely worth hearing.
Here's a typical Plattner quote he said about the Iraq War. You can think it's dumb and also kind of not want to miss it. Oh, Graham, I feel the same way about so many things. The Oscars, Christmas, Taylor Swift's wedding, that little speech Nicole Kidman gives before the movie comes on where she looks insane. And then, of course, there's the Nazi tattoo on his chest. I mean, seriously, this guy's whole life is the movie The Hangover. He doesn't need a term in the Senate. He needs a gap year in Costa Rica.
That's exactly how I see it. And honestly, there's something almost poetic about it. These are the same ideas the DNC fully embraced. The same ideas Maher repeatedly warned them about. Yet every warning was ignored. Now we're watching the fallout play out in real time. If Maine were a deep blue stronghold, Plattner might coast to victory on ideology alone. But Maine isn't built that way. Not even close. It's a state with a fiercely independent streak. Voters, they're often split tickets and reward practical thinking over party loyalty. This is the state that has re-elected Susan Collins again and again. A state known for valuing common sense over partisanship. So when candidates arrive pushing far-left ideas, they aren't building support. They're testing how much patience Maine voters still have left.
And yet, I would still urge the folks in Maine to vote for him. For two reasons. One, we need to restore balance in our government, and a Democratic Senate would help a lot with that. And two, get used to it. America is a country filled with a lot of broken, horribly educated, phone-addicted, sort of nutty people. And as long as we live in a representative democracy, we are always electing our reflection in the mirror.
I'd argue Plattner reflects the current direction of the DNC more than the views of most everyday Americans. At the end of the day, he's a party-backed candidate elevated because leaders believe he represents the future they want for both the party and the Senate. But I have to push back on the claim that Democrats need a Senate majority simply to restore balance. That argument doesn't hold up. We don't need politicians filling seats just to make the numbers look even. What we need are candidates with thoughtful policies who truly represent the people who elect them. Voters deserve substance, not placeholders chosen to create political symmetry. Good ideas should matter more than strategic positioning every single time.
Oh, there's going to be more bad tweets from candidates that haven't aged well, more bad tattoos. Did Plattner know the tattoo was a Nazi symbol when he got it? Maybe. But people today are so inundated with misinformation and internet bullshit, I wouldn't trust he knew what it stood for anyway. Everything people know now is from social media and shit posting and whatever some other idiot sends them, or whatever the Chinese are feeding them on TikTok.
A lot of people, especially on the left, seem content living inside carefully built bubbles. They avoid opposing views, uncomfortable facts, and any perspective that challenges their worldview. Rather than engage with disagreement, they shut it out completely. That's how people become chronically misinformed, surrounded only by voices that confirm what they already believe. When every source tells you you're right, critical thinking starts to disappear. And that isolation doesn't just create ignorance. It creates arrogance too. The kind that leaves people completely blindsided when reality or election results fail to match the world they've built inside their own bubble.
Maureen Galindo is a Democrat who ran for the House in Texas this year. But she's also said during the campaign she wants to turn the ICE detention center in her district into a prison for Zionists and ICE officers. But she says, putting Zionist billionaires in prison does not mean putting all Jews in internment camps. So a moderate. I guess she thinks she's progressive? Because hating ICE, okay, check, and hating Jews, sure, that's progressive now. But concentration camps?
That's a Democratic politician through and through. People like Maher Galindo often seem to view history through a highly selective lens. They'll say almost anything if it helps them score points with their base, regardless of whether the policy makes practical sense. Take the proposal to convert detention centers into prisons. How does that solve immigration problems? It doesn't strengthen border security. It doesn't reduce backlogs. It doesn't improve processing. It simply rebrands the issue and calls it progress. These politicians want viral moments more than real solutions. They want a catchy headline that energizes supporters, even if the policy behind it falls apart under scrutiny. Ma sees right through that kind of performative politics and knows these gimmicks were never designed to work.
Crazy. It's just not a deal breaker anymore for running. Politics has always been a crazy game, but the people running weren't this crazy.
Politics didn't always feel this chaotic. Many critics argue things changed when the left moved further into woke politics and abandoned the center. Some believe the shift began during the Obama years, but after his presidency, the movement accelerated dramatically. Today, ideas that once sat far outside mainstream debate often dominate political conversations. Even more striking, politicians built around those ideas are now running for major offices. Many seem to rely more on outrage than substance. Ma's warning couldn't be clearer. Until the left returns to a version of liberalism rooted in open debate, practical solutions, and common sense, winning highly competitive elections will remain an uphill battle.
Well, I've spent a good part of my life trying to get straight answers out of politicians. And I gotta tell you, while they're in office, you kind of have to trick them. This statement from the administration: the president had the constitutional authority to direct the use of military force because he could reasonably determine that such use of force was in the national interest. That's too vague for you?
Totally vague.
Okay, because that's from Obama. And he's one of the good ones.
Bill Maher exposed Democratic double standards with a simple but brilliant experiment. He read a political statement to Adam Schiff without revealing who said it. Schiff immediately criticized it, assuming it came from Donald Trump. The twist? It was actually a direct quote from Barack Obama. The moment perfectly showed how partisan bias can shape reactions before people even consider the substance. That's the broader point Ma wanted to make. Too often, identical words are judged differently depending on who speaks them. If a Democrat says it, it's thoughtful. If Trump says it, it's dangerous. The issue stops being about the message and becomes entirely about the messenger. That's the double standard Ma wanted everyone to see.
But you know when politicians get super honest? When they're retiring, or even better, dying. And especially when they're dying politically. If you're at 4% in the polls, oh, goodbye bullshit, hello Bullworth. Make you talk? We can't get you to shut up then. I see it here all the time. Politicians who are intransigent partisans or lackey water carriers, and then they're out of office, and it's read my book where I say all the things I should have said but didn't during my 500 years in office.
Joe Biden provides another example of the same pattern. For years, critics raised concerns about his mental sharpness. They pointed to confused moments, verbal stumbles, and visible signs of decline. Instead of addressing those concerns, many commentators dismissed them outright. People asking questions were labeled conspiracy theorists or partisan attackers. The concerns themselves were treated as unacceptable. Then came the debate performance, watched by millions. Suddenly, what had been dismissed for years became impossible to ignore. The same people who mocked the concerns could no longer deny them. The narrative collapsed in real time, and reality finally forced an acknowledgement of what critics had been saying all along.
Her name is Sia Weaver, and if you ask anyone in the blue sky bubble who that is, they'll look at you like a turkey looking up at the rain. But she's kind of important in New York, being Major Mamdani's chief of the Office to Protect Tenants, and since Mamdani's big issue is the rent's too damn high, yes, he stole this guy's act. It's a very key appointment in the most important city in the country, which is also our financial center. It matters that the mayor stands by, and I assume stands with, someone who says things like, if you don't believe in the government's sacred right to seize private property, it's over. Seize private property. Home ownership is racist.
In the end, every example points to the same conclusion. Critics argue the Democratic Party has drifted away from the practical, common-sense politics that once defined it. From Platner's double standards to Mamdani and AOC's far-left messaging, from Galindo's attention-grabbing proposals to the long refusal to address concerns about Biden, the pattern appears difficult to ignore. Many believe the party has built an echo chamber so strong that obvious truths are rejected until reality makes denial impossible. That's why Ma says his warning isn't partisan noise. It's a wake-up call. States like Maine value pragmatism and independence, and voters there may not tolerate ideology over substance forever. If Democrats want to win tough races again, they'll need candidates with real solutions instead of outrage and political theater. Until that happens, places like Maine remain firmly in play. And that should have party leaders paying attention. And on that note, we wrap up today's video. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button and subscribe for more content like this. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.